Welcome back to the Hana Shows, the podcast where we talk about career advice. In this episode, we will talk about the best ways to prepare for your job interview. We started in previous episodes by talking about how to find a job and then how to apply. This time, we will talk about the most common questions you get during the interview and how to answer them. So if they call you for the interview, it means you passed the first steps. It means you applied and you meet certain requirements. When they call you, you will have to obviously go on time, well prepared. You will have to look professional, speak in a professional way, look rested, and have a good sleep the day before. But I want to add two additional tips. So the first one is impress them. Go looking like you're really well prepared by having the resume printed. It will help you because you'll be able to follow along when they ask you questions. Of course, you have to know what's written in there. You're not looking at your resume because you don't remember, but just following along with them. You will have also optionally a cover letter. You can have the job descriptions to see all the requirements when the recruiter or the hiring manager is asking you questions and talking about the specific job. And also you can put all of them in a folder and even have the logo of the company on the cover, because you will reach the interview and look really well prepared. You also have to dress for the job. What I mean by that is research the culture of the company and dress accordingly, because these people already work in the company, and if they're interviewing you, it means they already have some kind of idea in mind about the perfect candidate. So let's say you apply to a job in a bank. You're facing clients, it's kind of formal, so they expect you to dress formally. You'll have to show up wearing a suit, for example, because this is the idea they have in mind about the right candidate, someone that looks professional. If you go to a company that's more casual, or you apply maybe for a tech job, something in a startup, and everyone else is really relaxed, casual, wearing jeans and t-shirts, you should also look like you're a part of the team already by dressing like them. If you show up with the suit, they will look at you and be like, what is this person doing here? So, of course, you always have to look professional, but at the same time, do your research about the culture in the company to dress like them. It's human nature, so these recruiters and hiring manager will already have a preconceived image about what the right candidate should look like. And if you match that description, it will be easier for you to add on and tell them your experience and work to convince them, instead of trying to erase the bad image they had and the first impression they had from you. So if you go to the job interview, it's because the recruiter or interviewer is trying to confirm that you're the right fit. They will ask you questions. You will have to answer the questions, obviously, but at the same time, you'll have the right to ask questions, and it will create engagement and a discussion. It will be more interesting for them to see that what you're passionate about, what you think, what you believe in, not only by answering their questions, but showing also that you're thinking in a critical way and you're able to come up with interesting questions. You will have two types of questions usually: the traditional questions and then what we call behavioral questions. I advise you to prepare both. So we will start with the traditional questions. The traditional questions are along the lines of, tell me about yourself, where do you see yourself in 5 years, questions to get to know you better, questions usually that will ask about the details that you mentioned in your resume. So the first one is always tell me about yourself. It's like an icebreaker. We usually answer the question briefly, tell a story in less than 2 minutes to summarize what's written on your resume. You shouldn't get into too much details and tell them everything and not let them the opportunity to continue and ask you questions. So just give them a brief description, show them that you match what's on the job posting, and use the same words. It's very important throughout the interview to use the right terminology. So that's why in the previous episode we talked about the research. If you do the research and you spend time looking at the job posting, you will pick up the keywords. These keywords should be used during the interview as well, because you might be talking to a recruiter. That recruiter might not be from technical background, from the specific job that you're applying to. So they have keywords. And even if you use words that are synonyms, maybe they don't know that it's the same and they don't pick up the analogy. So they might think you're not the right fit. It also shows that you speak their language. It's very important to show them that you're a good fit for the position and for the culture in the company. So using the keywords will be beneficial for you and will make their job also easier. At the same time, when you answer the questions, you have to approach each question critically and engage in a discussion and create a follow-up situation. So let's say you already described briefly what you're about. You have to also show them that you match the description. You have to each time tell them your accomplishment and not only use vague words. So I can use vague words like, I'm a hardworking person, or I'm very committed to my company, or I'm the best person for the job. But you have to prove it. So whenever you're answering questions, you have to tell them what you accomplished in the past that will show and prove that what you're saying is true, not only mention it. When you're in an interview, you want to limit their concerns. So these people are here to judge if you're the right fit. And if you're there, you have to assure that you are. It's normal. No one has a 100% match to the job descriptions. So it's your job and it's a challenge for you to show that even though you don't meet all the requirements, you will still be able to do the job. So let's say they ask for 5 years experience doing sales, for example. So maybe you only have 3, but you're able to prove that you have the ability to still perform the job. And then during your career, you did other things that will position you to do this job in the best way. You can also Google the company to have more information and be able to speak about their challenges and show how you can solve them. And you should also Google or search information about the interviewers, the recruiter or the hiring manager, because it creates certain connections. If you know who the person is, what their job is, you'll be able to answer the questions in a more concise way. So let's say someone went to the same school, someone did something you already know about or did. If you talk about it, you will create a connection. And it's human. If we feel connected to someone, we're more likely to appreciate that profile and to feel that that person belongs to our team. It's also important to know who these people are to be able to have the right conversation. So if you're applying to, let's say, an engineer job, you're very technical, and the person that's interviewing you is not technical. Let's say it's a recruiter that works in human resources. They will not probably know what the technical requirements are in details. So if you only start talking jargon, technical words, this person will be lost and they will not understand that you actually know what the job is about and you know what you're talking about. So when I said at the beginning, it's important to do your research and Google the questions you're likely to get, because They're common and they're repeated in most of the interviews. So if you have time to think about them in advance, you will not be in a situation where they ask you the question and then you'll be like, I don't know. You'll take time to think about it, although you know the answer. It's better to come prepared, and it will be reflected in your answers because they will be more structured. So think about questions like weaknesses and your strength and all these common questions. They ask them with a purpose. Don't just answer the questions randomly. See what the purpose behind each question is to be able to answer them the best way. So even when we ask what are your weaknesses, don't just say something generic or say something like, oh, I'm a very hardworking person and it's, that everyone says that and it doesn't mean anything. Give examples, specific examples where you show that weakness and say, I had a feedback, my colleagues said something, they mentioned this. It shows that you're aware of it, but at the same time show that you're working to improve it. So it's not don't mention bad things that don't have a fix, but mention something with the potential for improvement. That shows that you're well aware of your personality, what you can do, what you cannot do, and at the same time it's showing that you're progressing and you're working to improve yourself. Now, when it comes to the behavioral questions, there are questions along the line of, tell me about the time where you, for example, tell me about the time where you faced a challenge. Tell me about a time you had a conflict with someone in your team. Usually it's better to prep for them, otherwise you will seem like someone telling just a random story and it will not be structured enough. You will be rambling. So think about different stories you had in your experience. Maybe 3 stories about challenges, 3 stories about success, and frame them in advance. So then when people will ask you these type of questions, you will already have a pre-think story in mind. Structure them using the STAR method. STAR is S for situation, task, action, and then result. Why? Because we start by telling the story and telling them the context, telling them the problem, so the situation, when, where it happened, and then the task you were supposed to perform. And then because you're telling the story, something went wrong or something happened, so then you had to do something to fix it, so the action, and then tell them the results you came up with. So it will show a very logical story and people will understand directly the impact you had. It will show, because it's a behavioral question, how you behaved during that context, during that situation. And it will give them more context about how you work and who you are as a person. I want to add also that the benefit of doing a previous research on the company, on the team, on any information you can find is that you can engage in a conversation and you can show them indirectly that you're a very qualified person and you're interested in the job. So at the end of the interview, they will ask you, do you have additional questions? And usually it's better to ask around 3 questions that are different. So one of them, for example, related to the role, additional details to show that you know and you understand what they're looking for, and you want to see if you can add something. So you want to show that you're a critical thinker. You also can ask a question about the company. So if you did your research, it will be reflected. You will tell them, for example, you opened a new department. You started this project. So what is the impact? What do you expect the company to gain from that? You can ask about specifically the team you're going to be working in. How is it? How is the team structured? How do you expect the teamwork members to work together? What will be my contribution? You will have to show that you already know the challenges they're facing, and you're here to help them, and you're someone that's knowledgeable. because it's not one directional, like we said, and they're not only there to ask you why you're here and why do you want this job. This question is easy because you can just go through the job posting and say, well, I understand that you're looking for this candidate that is able of doing this and this and this, depending on what the job is, and using the right keywords. But at the end, to distinguish yourself, you have to also ask questions that show your interest in the company, show that you did the work, and show that you're someone that's critical for the team and that will help them in improve their work project or whatever they're hiring you to do.
I'm going to be watching you.
Okay. So to sum it up, the interview is there to confirm that you're the right fit, to show to the recruiters that you match the job description, but at the same time, you're there to ask questions and understand if it's the right job for you, if this is what you were looking for. And by asking the right question, you'll be able to spot if it's a bad employer or if it's really your dream job. So take advantage of this opportunity. With this, we came to the end of this episode. You can tell me in the comment section your experience during the interview process. And you can find my previous episodes on Spotify and on my YouTube channel. See you next time.